Hello everybody and welcome to Cornish Walking Trails. Today we're in Cadgwith. In this video we will show you 3 churches with differing fortune.
What makes this so unusual? So it's a tabernacle, isn't it? It's called a tin tabernacle.
Visit the Devil's Frying Pan. I just love that name, regardless of how it came about. I love the idea that they thought, oh yeah, it just looks like somewhere the devil would come and fry his eggs. And discover who owned this cute little thatched cottage by the sea. Cadgwith is on the Lizard Peninsula, south of Helston.
Bargain, Sarah.
What's that?
£3, park all day in the car park.
£3?
Yeah, that's alright, isn't it?
One of the cheapest in Cornwall, isn't it?
That's June 2024, yes.
Yeah, that's
£3,
not
that's
bad.
alright, isn't it? Yeah.
We're in Cadgwith. We're just now leaving the car park. We're going to follow the footpath to the village. We're going to take a little detour into the church, the Tabernacle church, on the way down to the beach. So this is St Mary's Church. It was originally founded as a missionary church in Cadgwith in 1895.
It's built for fishermen, isn't it?
Well, it says it was built to encourage the baptism of infants, and some of those children were for immigrant Irish Catholic families.
Oh, okay. I do know as well, if you look at this church from the opposite side of the valley and look back, it's actually built on stilts.
I know.
Incredible.
You can see air underneath it, can't you?
What makes this so unusual? So it's a tabernacle, isn't it? It's called a tin tabernacle. And it's actually made of corrugate, well, iron, isn't it?
On the outside.
Yeah, on the roof and on the sides, yeah.
It's got this little bell. It's complete with some brilliantly blue painted pews. I love them. I think it's quite special. This type of building is becoming more and more rare. So it's lovely to think that they're keeping it up to date and in really good nick. It's all freshly painted. It smells good in here, so there's no damp. It's lovely. I think they're also very proud of this little church. It says the electric light was installed in this Cadgwith Mission Church by friends of the church to show their thankfulness to Almighty God for the preservation of the coast from the enemy action during 6 years of war in 1939 to 1945. I guess it would have been candles before then. Yes, that's the rope to ring the bell.
I've just been filming the bell outside.
Have
It's
you?
all painted blue as well.
Is it?
Yeah.
It's so cute. Oh yeah. There's the other end of the rope. Oh, it's so cute.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
I don't, it makes me smile. And this is the corrugate.
Yeah.
Goes all the way down. Love it. No, don't do that. It's like a naughty child. It's right on the Todden. It's a bit of a headland between the 2 beaches. I just think, whenever I look at that, it has to be one of the smallest holiday lets.
2 seagulls on top of it.
Gives you proportion though, doesn't it? It's literally compact and bijou.
Yeah, those seagulls are huge though, look at them.
Big, big fat ones eating all the fish that have caught. So from up on the Todden you get the most fabulous view. I always think of this side as the fishing side, the working side. Unfortunately, earlier this year there was a couple of cliff collapses, a bit of coastal erosion, and that's what they're repairing over there. And then on the other side, I always think of this as the bathing side, where you can sit and just chill, have a little swim. today we're going on a 6, maybe 7 mile walk. Starting here in Cadgwith, we're going to follow the southwest coast path for a bit, then come inland to an interesting little church. We're going to head back to Ruan Minor, but from there there's an even more interesting church nearby. So there's a bit of a walk involving the tale of 2, if not 3, churches, all with their own story.
Oh, I like what you did there. Hello everybody, by the way. I was thinking of a title for this video. It might be a bit long and it might not be very catchy.
Right.
But I was thinking 3 churches,
yeah,
a frying pan and a likely lad.
Oh, I see where you're going.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, I'm glad you do.
The likely lad comes in at the end, doesn't it?
Yes.
So now we're going to start picking up the southwest coast path. We're going to walk to somewhere called the Devil's Frying Pan. The Devil's Frying Pan. Obviously it's a collapsed sea cave, and what's left is an arch. One day I expect that will go too. Now the Victorians were quite good at naming things. If you go to the Kynance area, they've named every rock and every cave down there, and it was part of the way they toured around our county back then. So hence this one was named the Devil's Frying Pan. Some people say it's because it resembles when the water's coming through that arch and it's rushing through, it looks like it's boiling, and the shape of it is like a frying pan, so you could almost fry an egg, and that's, I think, how it got its name. If you know otherwise, please add it to the comments. I'm sure there's more than one way that that area has become called the Devil's Frying Pan. But can I just say, I just love that name, regardless of how it came about. I love the idea that they thought, oh yeah, it just looks like somewhere the devil would come and fry his eggs. So we've had quite a lot of rain, a wet spring, one of the wettest on record. And it means that the coastal path is quite overgrown. But we've also had loads and loads of spring flowers. The pink campions are out at the moment. We've got some celandines, and I think this is rapeseed that's escaped from a farmer's field. So it's really looking pretty. The bluebells have gone on now, and the elderflower trees are starting to come out. So the hedges are looking absolutely stunning, and they have been now for about 6 weeks. It's one of the best times to visit Cornwall and walk the southwest coast path in kind of like late May, early June. So we've recently done this walked along the cliff path, haven't we? We're trying to put together a homemade walk in this area. It's the story really of 3 churches, isn't it?
It is, yes, and we wanted to find a way of joining them all up, didn't we? So the obvious way to do it is to do a circular walk. And you think it'd be quite easy, wouldn't you? But we've had a few challenges. So this is the 3rd time we've been here. We've actually got it cracked now. We know how to do it. But trying to put it together and use footpaths, I said, you think it would be simple, but feet on the ground, when you've actually come here, they've either been overgrown or they've not been accessible.
I'm actually struggling. I'm filming this really badly because I don't want to slip.
Yeah, it's along here. There's nothing to indicate it's a footpath though, is there?
Where to now though? It makes you feel uncomfortable, doesn't it?
It does, doesn't it? Because you feel like you shouldn't be here, but clearly it's on an ordinance survey.
So if you want to know how we got on and where it all went wrong for us, then by all means join us on Patreon or YouTube membership. You get the same content on both platforms. Yeah, so the other thing about Patreon and YouTube membership is that it's ad-free. You have an ad-free version. We'll send you details of, well, we're trying to meet up twice a year. We got round to it once last year.
Yeah, we did one in April. We're aiming to do another one in September at some point.
So the details of that will be on there too.
It also helps us out greatly as well, because obviously it's a way that you can help us to carry on making the content that you enjoy watching. So
yeah, so if you're interested, just hop over. I'll put the details in the description below. The written instructions for this walk will be available on Patreon and will add to our collection of over 25 homemade walks. Okay, my heart's in my mouth. That's a rusty old gate you're leaning on. You're actually stood on. You're on the 4th rung of a rusty.
I'm recreating that scene in Titanic.
Yeah. Oh, Andrew! Can you please?
Oh, that's the bodyguard, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the Titanic music.
I can't remember.
Leonardo, come on in.
Our first glimpse, proper glimpse of St. Grade Church. And here we are. This church is so cute. It's like the type of church you'd draw as a child. Little tower, some pinnacles, and a few windows and a door. So it's thought that the tower might date back to 1400. We've read that in one of our old books. If you know differently, then by all means put it in the comments, share what you know. It's made of granite and serpentine, and they've been cut quite beautifully. The granite is not local, so that would have had to have been brought here from somewhere else. But this area, the Lizard, is famous for serpentine, and that's what the darker coloured blocks are on the tower. So peaceful here, isn't it? There's butterflies flying around everywhere.
You've got a problem with their roof, Sarah?
I think it's from
Isn't it?
That is the story of this church. At the moment, there is a huge appeal to replace the roof, so they think it's going to cost £150,000 just to sort the roof out. And when we came in March, there was literally puddles on the floor of this poor church, isn't there? And outside you can see where the slates are on the grave, you know, on the graveyard floor, and there's holes in the roof that have been patched. So there is this big appeal.
It does say that. We've already raised just over £76,000 in August 2023, and we need to reach a target of £140,000 to re-roof the church.
Wow.
We're getting there.
Yeah. Let's hope they get there before the church really goes into huge disrepair. It'd be a shame to lose pews and stuff like that, wouldn't it? And the floorboards. There are two very interesting things down at this end of the church. Firstly, that pulpit. It's made from serpentine. It was made especially for this church. Serpentine, as we said outside, it's a rock that is peculiar to this area. And you can see when it polishes up, it's got the most exquisite shine. It polishes beautifully flat. And this particular one is a red. And then they've got some white. I think that's more likely to be marble. So this was made specifically for this church. Everything reflects in the surface of the serpentine. So that's the window behind. Beautiful window. This is our second interesting feature at this end of the church, isn't it? So beside the altar, to the right of the altar.
So this, I think it's slate. It's I should imagine it's either a memorial. It's got to be a memorial, isn't it, rather than a tombstone?
I don't know.
Hard to tell.
Could be
anyway.
under there, couldn't they?
I don't know if you can make it out. There's two big figures here. There's a man on the left, and he looks like a knight, and there's a lady to the right. Now, this chap on the left, he's called James Eresy, and his wife was called Margaret. And down below here, they had 5 boys and they had 5 girls.
Children, they had 10 children.
10 children, yes. And that's
Poor
what
woman.
represents here. And he died in the 1500s. He was sheriff of Cornwall.
Oh, wow.
He lived in a nearby district. It was called Eresy Manor, I think.
Okay.
And back in the 1500s, he was a very important character in Cornwall. So we've got a book with us today, and I'll read a little bit from it.
Okay.
So it says in here, that the memorial slab is now made of Delabole slate, which is what's there.
Yeah.
It says it consists of the effigies of James Eresy and his wife Margaret, the former attired in a suit of armour but bareheaded, and the latter in a long gown. An inscription on the brass reads, "Of your charity pray for the souls of James Eresy and Margaret his wife.
for which James deceased the 17th day of October in the year of our Lord 1522, on whose souls Jesus have mercy. Amen.
That's 502 years ago.
It is, isn't it? Below this inscription are the effigies of their 5 sons and 5 daughters, and at the 4 corners are shields bearing the Heresy arms.
Okay.
And it says, this James Heresy, commemorated on the brass, was Sheriff of Cornwall in 1512 and 1513. During the 1513 war was declared against France, and a fleet of French men of war, about 50 sail, came into Mounts Bay and set ashore a company of armed men to plunder the countryside. They immediately fired Myrozion, which was completely destroyed, but were dispersed later and driven back to their ships by the trained bands of Kerrier, commanded by the aforesaid James Heresy, who had marched at the head of the Kerrier stalwarts to Myrozion the same day.
Oh, so he saved... He fought off the Spanish fleet?
Yeah. French.
Oh, French fleet. Gosh, okay.
Foreigners.
Yeah.
Come over here.
How dare they?
So it's kind of hidden at the back of this
It
church,
is,
really,
isn't
isn't
it?
it?
You wouldn't know there was such a story behind it.
Yeah.
So he was quite heroic in his deeds in protecting Cornwall.
So it seems to suggest in here this was originally brass, and when the church was rebuilt in 1861, this was moved across into being put onto Delavol's slate.
I wonder where the original brass is. And there's the children. Goodness me, 10 children. That's a lovely story. I like that story, and that you've still got that memorial here. So hopefully they'll get the roof sorted out and you won't lose all of this history.
So that's a good story.
Yes.
But the naming of this church, to my mind, is the most fascinating story about this church.
Do tell.
I think you should do it.
Okay. This church is called St Grada and the Holy Cross. They aren't quite sure how St Grada is kind of associated with this church, but they do know how the Holy Cross bit came about. So there was this knight that went to the Holy Lands, a Cornish knight, and his name was Roger Walesborough. So he goes to the Holy Land and he acquires a piece of the true cross. He smuggles it out by hiding it in his thigh. On the way back, on the seas, a storm comes in and the crew gets anxious. They think he's bad luck and they toss him overboard. He fights for his life and he vows that if he makes it ashore alive, the first church he gets to, he will donate the piece of the Holy Cross. Exhausted, he collapses in a hedgerow. Meanwhile, in the church, they're in here worshipping and a dove flies in. They're quite astounded by this and they follow the dove out the door, and it leads them basically to this poor knight. Magically, the bit of cross appears from in his thigh and he donates it to this church, which is how it came to be called St Grada and the Holy Cross. For a while it was actually here in a box, but it's no longer here. They don't quite know where it's gone. And apparently 2 bells, medieval bells, are missing as well. Such a shame that that little fragment of wood is no longer here. But I guess it was such a long time ago, so we're talking, 1,000 years ago. Still a beautiful church. And now we're going to take you to a kind of sister church a little over a mile away. Oh gosh, going to need the sunglasses out here. Isn't that nice to say? Hello, sunshine. You're very welcome with us on our walk today. So this little church, St Grada and the Holy Cross, was rebuilt from virtual ruins. It was almost out of commission, if you like.
I think it says the 1860s, I think this was rebuilt. And before that, it was pretty much ruinous. All that was here was a tower, I think.
And the walls.
The rest had fallen into complete disrepair, isn't it? So what are we, 140 years on? They obviously rebuilt it at that stage, but it's now at a point where it needs some more help, isn't it?
Now, that is the fortune. It's kind of flipped fortunes with the church that we're going to next, hasn't it? So this is the story of our walk. How this church has had its prime recently.
Yes.
And it kind of stole the congregation almost from the church that we're going to
It's a good way of
a
putting
mile away. And when you could get there, you'll understand what we're trying to say. It's not looking like this one. What's wrong with you?
Got something in my thigh.
Oh, ha ha.
Oh, it's giving me an awful jip.
Oh. What are you going to do about that then?
Oh, I'll get it out. Do you want it?
No.
Put it in a box.
No. God. This is the holy well to St Grada. Traditionally, infants and baptisms have been performed using the water from this well. So this well is kind of affiliated with the church.
We're out on the lizard today, Sarah. We're
Yes.
near Cugger.
Yes.
Rhymes with bugger.
Oh, not
I
again.
can't say that, can I?
Can't say that.
No.
Honestly, I can't take him anywhere. He's scratching his thighs, he's rhyming with cugger. I don't know what to do with you today.
It's rhymes with bugger, isn't it?
Oh, stop!
Right,
There's
okay.
another beep I got to
Oh,
put
sorry.
in.
All right. Behave. All right.
This tiny, narrow, single track road with moss all the way down the middle takes us to Ruan Major Church. Quite a delightful setting and a very unusual story. The old gate just about hanging on its hinges. It gives you a clue as to the current situation of this church. Believe it or not, this church was once thriving. It was bigger. It's been rebuilt so it's smaller, and now it's a shell. Still some quarry tiles on the floor where the pews would have sat all those years ago. You can still see one or two. They're a bit wonky now. The steps up to where the altar was. And I think the most poignant thing here is the old stained glass window. It's virtually intact. I think poignant is a good word here. It is poignant to see a building that was once full of life, had a purpose, and now it looks like this. So the fortunes of this church have changed radically since this book was published. This is Churches of West Cornwall by J.T. Blythe. It was first published in 1865. In here we've got a description of a fully functioning larger church. So he's written here that St Ruan Major consists of a chancel nave, north and south aisles, and a south porch and western tower. The chancel, projecting one way beyond the aisles, is the oldest part of the church and has a single lancet in the north and south aisles. So we even have a floor plan here. I'm stood here, the tower's behind you, this is where the altar would have been, and you can clearly see that there is a couple of aisles, north and south, with the porch on the south side.
So those have been removed then?
Yeah, completely. And they've been filled in, look, where you would have walked through to the
of course,
aisle.
yes.
It's now infilled.
Same on this side.
Well, we've got 2 windows been put in, and you can clearly see newer brickwork here. Where the plaster has fallen away, it's revealed the brickwork that's infilled. Presumably these windows would have been on the other side of the aisle.
So they've reused the windows?
Presumably, you wouldn't go and buy new ones. That's the most expensive bit, isn't it? All that carved stone. You wouldn't waste that. But they've clearly shrunk. They've gone to all this trouble of shrinking it to the size of the tower. So Andrew was asking, do you think they reused the window? And here, it seems they did. So it's a window in the south aisle of St Ruan Major. So that would have been in place in the larger church for Blight to draw at the time. So what is quite fascinating with it falling apart like this, and you get the plasterwork coming away, you can start to begin to read what's happened to the building over time. Now the tower, they reckon, is like the other ones down in the Lizard area, probably 14th century. It's made of granite and serpentine, and from the outside it gives a checkerboard appearance because serpentine is really dark and the granite is quite pale. But it's irregular, it's just, you know, that brick will go on top of that brick. I mean, look at that. Huge lump of granite. And then the darker ones are serpentine. And that is the church that Blight would have seen when he arrived here in 1865. You can see there's some beautiful checkerboarding on the tower. And here is that south aisle. I've just come through the gravestones. It's actually still a consecrated graveyard, to try to marry up this picture of the tower and where he could potentially have sat to do the sketch. And this is what it looks like now. So he's quite impressed with the granite pinnacles on the very top of the tower, saying that the granite must have been brought from quite some distance away because it's not a local stone, obviously the serpentine is. And on top of them you've got like a flat cross. It's not upright like that, it sits flat on top of the pinnacle.
It's beautiful, isn't it? It's really tranquil here, isn't it?
It's quite poignant, isn't it?
Isn't it? Just imagine sort of in the depths of winter.
Oh,
Quite eerie, wouldn't it?
Yeah, especially with the rooks cawing and...
It feels really special, doesn't it? It feels actually a privilege to be here.
Yeah.
So this is Ruan Major Church, and ironically it is now a major ruin.
You're right.
Isn't it?
Sometimes when we visit, we obviously visit quite a few churches when we're doing the channel, and we sometimes wonder what the fate of churches will be, whether most of them will end up like this if they can't find a new purpose. Just a landmark to the bygone era, really.
I don't think this place gets a lot of visitors, do you?
No, I don't either.
Way off the beaten track, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's remote out here as well. You can't park anywhere close. This is only somewhere you could reach by walking here, isn't it?
Yeah.
It actually feels very much as if it's almost like a sleep and it just wants to be reawoken.
I don't think it'll ever be
It
reawoken
never will be,
to
will it?
you.
It will just slowly, just completely die, won't it?
Just disappear.
Yeah.
There was only a couple of families really in that graveyard, wasn't there? So it's not as if there's any reason for people to visit.
No, it feels special to be able to come to look at it.
Yeah. So after this road, we're going to head down now to Ruan Minor before heading back to Cadgwith.
Have you seen what you're walking on, by the way?
Yes! Yes, it's both alarming and fascinating. In fact, it was better back there. But there's bits of glass in the mix of the tar, and it's just catching the light as you walk.
It's on the whole road, isn't it? It's obviously when they made this road, they mixed it in with glass pieces.
It's extraordinary.
Yeah, it's actually sparkling in the sunshine.
Green, yellowy green, white, the blue of medicine bottles.
Imagine years ago that congregation walking up here quite a long way and they go, oh, this road's a pain in the glass.
Oh. This roads of pain would have been enough. A big, huge thank you to all of these people that have bought us a coffee recently. When we get back to Cadgwith, we're hoping to have a pint in the pub. So more of a buy me a pint, but it is a big thank you from us. We are very grateful to those people that dip their hands in their wallets. It's very much appreciated. Andrew, was this you? Was this you?
Nothing to do with me. I didn't do that. It's huge, isn't it?
Naughty.
Have you just seen what I've just seen?
I've just seen a really wonky chimney.
Gotta love a wonky chimney.
How is that even staying there?
Beauty, innit? That's some beauty, isn't it? Sarah, the property on the end, I think it's called Corner Cottage. It's the beautiful one. Should we? Well, they're all beautiful, aren't they? There's one I particularly like. Should we go and have a look at it? So this house, I think back in the 1970s, was once owned by Rodney Bewes. Do you remember who he was?
Vaguely.
He was on the telly a lot back in the 1970s and 80s. In The Likely Lads.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I remember that being on the telly.
My mum and dad used to watch that. I remember watching that.
James Boland was the other guy that was in it.
Okay.
I think it was it Terry and Bob, I think they were called?
Oh, I don't know.
But yeah, apparently Rodney Bewes came and lived here. I think this was initially his holiday home, but in older life he was here a lot. You know, he loved the village apparently, and I think the people in the village really liked him as well. I asked him if he does request, but he doesn't know Trelawney. Just take those glasses back. How many have you had? You've had 2 in all the time I've been away. What are you like? You're alky.
I could roll up the hill. We're back at Cadgwith.
We've got an empty beach.
Beautiful.
I know. It's gorgeous, isn't it?
So all that remains is for us to say thank you for watching. We hope you've enjoyed the story of the changing fortunes of 2 churches, and we threw another one in for good measure.
Yeah, we got 3 for the price of 2. There we go.
Bog off.
Yeah. Told you the story of a likely lad that lived here.
And also of a very courageous knight that had a bit of the true cross in his thigh.
He did, didn't he? Yes.
I wouldn't want to do that.
No, I don't fancy it either. No, I'll get a little bag for it or something.
So from us for now, we'll say goodbye. Bye.
Bye.